Hi Stampers, this is Debbie Henderson from Debbie's Designs and welcome to a new project that I'm going to show you today. I'm going to show you how to do the raised wording that you've seen in some cards. If you turn this over a little bit, you can see how high the wording is compared to my cardstock layer, and I'm going to show you how to do that today. We're going to be using 3 ink colors: Strawberry Slush, Crushed Curry, and Calypso Coral, and you're going to need an aqua painter to get the color on your paper. And for cardstock, we're going to use Calypso Coral, 5.5 inches by 8.5 inches, scored in the center at 4 1/4 inches. Crushed Curry cardstock, 5 1/4 inches by 4. Watercolor paper, which is very important, 4 3/4 inches by 3.5 inches. And you'll also need an additional watercolor piece just for the cutting of the thinlits that I'll show you. For the stamp set, I am using Gorgeous Grunge, and I'm using this little splatter image right here. And we're going to be using the Hello Thinlits dies, which can be found in our Occasions catalog right here. There's 4 words. And actually comes bundled where you can save 15% off with the Crazy About You stamp set. And that can be found on page 31 of the catalog. So let's get started. Now, in order to add color to our watercolor paper, we're going to actually use the ink from our ink pads. And how to do this is you squeeze on the center of your ink pads. And when you open them up, this is the ink that we're going to use that's found in the lid of the ink pad. So I'm going to do this with all 3 colors. And I'm going to turn them facing me so I can use them to do my coloring. So let me push these over a little bit. Then you're going to bring in your watercolor paper and your aqua painter. Now, if you've never used an aqua painter before, this actually comes apart and you fill it with water so that when you get ready to use it, you can actually squeeze water out of it. And that's how we're going to watercolor today. So we're going to start out with the Calypso Coral color. And I'm just going to dip that in there a little bit. And as I'm going to apply the color, I'm going to squeeze on the barrel of my aqua painter to get some color out. So that's color number 1. And then I'm going to squeeze water so it rinses the color out so I can start with a brand new color. Again, squeezing. Squeeze water to rinse. And color number 3. And now what I'm going to do is rinse it out, and where the colors meet, I'm just going to drag it across just to meld them together. I think I'm going to add a little bit more of the Calypso Coral to darken that one up a little bit. And that's all you need to do. We're going to let this dry a little bit, and I'll be right back to show you the next step. Now, what I've actually gone and done, instead of sitting here waiting for this to dry, I used my heat tool on it. And one little tip when you're using a heat tool on watercolor paper, it will curl the paper a little bit. So once I had this portion dried, I flipped it over and dried it from underneath, and you'll see that my paper is now flat. So now we're going to bring in the Big Shot and put this in the middle and cut that out. So I'm placing this on my Big Shot, and sometimes some of these thinlits can be a little finicky. My Big Shot actually doesn't apply enough pressure, so I do add a cardboard shim on top of mine and run it through. Again, it depends on your Big Shot. Some do need shims while others don't. So I'm just going to peel this off. I now have my hole. It's very important if you're going to do this the way I did to keep all these little pieces, which I call guts, from your die. So make sure you pop those out and keep them handy by. Oops, one went flying. And you'll notice even the little O has a little tiny one right there. So you do need to keep that one also. So I'm just sorry about that. My phone was ringing. Now I'm going to continue to remove my lettering. And actually the watercolor paper really pops out easy out of these thinlits. And I still have that little piece in my O to get out. Okay, so there's all my little pieces. Now what I'm going to do is layer this over my crushed curry layer. And I'm going to make sure I put some of the adhesive close to the lettering, just so it doesn't flop up in the air. And we're also going to glue that to our card base. So I'm going to fold that in half and use my bone folder. Now, when we put this back, we could leave the yellow peeking out of the lettering, but I think it looks a lot better with the watercolored pieces back in there. So you could actually do it both ways, whichever way you prefer. So now I've gone ahead and cut 2 more of the hello with just plain watercolor paper. We're going to add some liquid glue on the letters here and there. It's a little tedious to get this on there. And we're going to layer that over the other watercolored layer. So we now have 2 layers. And we're going to do the same thing with our colored hello. And make sure they're perfectly lined up. Okay, and I'm going to let that sit for a little bit just to dry up. Now we're going to bring in our card and add glue to the lettering one last time. And we're going to press this in place. I'm just going to take a scrap and press down. And now I'm going to add glue to the little spots on the inside. And I'm just going to press with my paper piercer to get that in there nice and flat. So like I said, you can opt to use these little guts back in there if you want to, or you can leave the color from the crushed curry peeking out, but I like this look better. And we can't forget this little piece. And now I'm going to bring in my adhesive eraser because I did get a little bit of glue on some of the letters. I'm just going to wipe those off. I love this tool. It even removes sticky strip. One of the first things I usually tell my customers that they need to purchase. Okay, now we're going to add a little bit of grunge. And I'm going to bring in the scrap paper. And we're going to start out with the Calypso Coral. I'm going to stamp it on my scrap first, just to give it a very subtle look. So there's the Calypso Coral. Now I'm going to bring in the strawberry slush. And the last is the crushed curry. And there you have it. I hope you try this technique out. It's a lot of fun. You can use any type of wording to do it. If you have any questions, leave me a message on YouTube, or you can email me and I'll have all the supplies listed at the end of my video. Thanks for stopping by today. Have a good day.